Remind the American public and investors why you need a Bitcoin reserve at all.
Well, good to be here. I mean, the reason why we need a Bitcoin reserve is that the federal government already owns some. In fact, it obtained around 400,000 Bitcoin over the past decade through criminal and civil forfeitures and seizures. And so the government has to have a strategy for how it deals with this. In the past, the strategy has been simply to sell it, in an ad hoc way, almost willy-nilly. And that cost American taxpayers something like $17 billion in lost value. So we want to have a long-term strategy to maximize the value of these holdings. And we've decided that Bitcoin is scarce, it's valuable, and that it's strategic for the United States to hold on to this as a long-term reserve asset. So that's the plan with the 200,000 Bitcoin that we believe are in the possession of the federal government. And I say we believe because no one really knows for sure because we never had a proper audit. So that's one of the first things that this executive order provides, that we're going to do a full government-wide audit to find out what digital assets we actually have so they can be safeguarded and moved into a strategy that maximizes their long-term value.
Right.
All right, so what's up, everybody? So listen, so we know the news came out with Trump and the Strategic Reserve and Michael Saylor and Brian Armstrong and all these people were there in the big summit. And listen, I know this is not what people were initially expecting, but just think, we have now stopped the attack of crypto and Bitcoin for the first time ever from the U.S. government. No more of these crazy far-left Democrats with Choke Point 1.0 and Choke Point 2.0 and Elizabeth Warren trying to say that it's only used by criminals and drug dealers and that it's all illegal. All that is over. This is a big deal. I know it's not exactly what we want, which is why the price is not trading as high. You can see right here, it's at 88,000. There will be more great things to come. The only way the U.S. can keep buying new Bitcoin is it has to be an act of Congress. All right, so that's going to be coming in the future. First things first is make it official that we are pro-Bitcoin. Make it official that we want to keep what we have, strategic reserve. And we will work on ways to add it more that is budget-friendly or budget-neutral, which will be coming. So let me show you more on that. But this is a big deal. So I hope you enjoy this. Like, subscribe, give me a like. I would love to know. Leave me some comments. Trust me, good things are going to come. The U.S. dollar is dropping. The tariff thing is not going to be a long-term issue. And once the Fed has to start cutting rates and the money printer comes back on, it is nothing but great days for crypto, especially for Bitcoin. So let's continue here.
And there's the stockpile. Talk to us about the nuance there and why you need a stockpile for altcoins and how you're treating them differently.
Right. Well, the idea there is, again, we're going to figure out what do we actually have on the federal balance sheet, and we're going to move those, like you said, altcoins or digital assets other than Bitcoin into a stockpile for safekeeping. The difference there is that the Secretary of the Treasury will exercise responsible stewardship over those assets, and he has the discretion to rebalance the portfolio or to sell items in that portfolio. But that's not true for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin we want to keep long-term. So there's a difference there in objective. With the reserve, the goal is long-term preservation. With the stockpile, the goal is responsible stewardship, portfolio management in essence.
So long story short, the Solana, the XRP, the Cardano, all the other stuff that long-term I don't believe in, super long-term, I'll trade it and make money off of it because why not? It's a casino right now, and if you can make money, make money. There is a bull run coming. Don't know. I think I've been saying it's going to be muted in regards to the bull run for alts, but he said the difference. One is to be trading it and to be stewardship. The other one is for long-term strategic reserves, just like the gold reserves, just like we have an oil strategic stockpile, long-term holding of Bitcoin, trading of the alts, and taking advantage of price in the future. But Bitcoin is meant to be held long-term. They are separating it. They are differentiating it for all the world to know. And this is game theory now for all the sovereign states.
David, the executive order also tasks Secretary Lutnick and Bessent with finding budget-neutral ways that won't cost the taxpayer to add to that reserve. What qualifies as budget-neutral? Can you give us some examples of how that would actually work?
Well, budget neutral just means it won't cost the taxpayer anything. It won't increase the deficit. It won't increase the debt. So that's basically the constraints on what they can do. If they can figure out creative ways to add to the stock, to the reserve of Bitcoin, they're allowed to accumulate more Bitcoin. But again, it cannot impose any burden on the federal deficit, debt, or the taxpayer. So that's the rule. Now, you can ask the question, well, how are they going to do that? And I think that's sort of up to them. If they can figure out creative strategies that they believe are in the long-term interest of the country, they now have the authorization to develop those strategies.
Do you think using savings that come from Doge, for example, qualify as something that would be budget neutral?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. I think that's something that have to be assessed by probably the Office of Management and Budget. I think that since Doge is cutting the deficit, and we'd want to seek a way to rescind those appropriations, it probably would not count, but you probably have to ask the owner.
Now, another thing too, if Doge and the government actually send out checks to the American people as refund checks from all the savings, think about what happened with the stimmy checks that went out during COVID. Think about that. There's going to be a huge amount of money pouring into crypto and into Bitcoin if people are getting stimmy checks from the Doge savings. Just FYI, be aware of that, be alert of that. Now, there's another one I want to show you from this, just to end up on this executive order, and I want to know what your guys' opinions are, so let's do that. All right, so here's something from CNBC. It's a short video, but to kind of go a little more into the thought process of Wall Street and executives that understand. I know retail's not happy, but the strategic reserve is a big deal. Just listen.
After President Trump signed an executive order establishing a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve. For more on what all of this means for crypto, we're joined by VanEck's head of digital assets research, Matthew Siegel. Matthew, great to have you with us. You're bullish, obviously, and a lot of people in the crypto community are, but why, now knowing that taxpayer dollars will not be used to buy additional Bitcoin, only in a revenue neutral way, and that they're going to start with just the Bitcoin that they have, why is this positive for the price?
Well, this is a huge deal because President Trump has laid down a path to the U.S. being a leader in Bitcoin and digital assets and ending the regulatory weaponization of the last 4 years that drove so many entrepreneurs offshore. So he's instructed his cabinet to explore all possible paths to adding to the government's existing 200,000 Bitcoin. And Treasury Secretary Bessent also said today that he will work with the IRS to rescind and revamp all of the tax guidance that the IRS has already put forward. So I think basically this does three things. It significantly lowers the risk of the U.S. government ever banning Bitcoin. Exactly. And judging from my conversations with investors, people still worry about that. It also increases the likelihood that other nations will create Bitcoin reserves, and we're starting to see motion on that front. And then it makes it very challenging for institutions and agencies to label Bitcoin as unsafe or unsuitable, which still comes up. No more Elizabeth Warren, no more Choke Point 2.0, no more of these crazy far-left libs attacking us. Okay? Very important. This establishes Bitcoin in a separate category from other digital assets, and it opens room for Congress to start the process of crafting legislation on additional Bitcoin purchases, which could be a standalone bill like Senator Loomis has put forward, or it could be packaged into a reconciliation. And exactly, Senator Loomis, however you want to pronounce it, she already has a bill. It was going nowhere under the Biden administration. Now with the new Congress, new all-Republican, new pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin administration and government that we have, they're going to put this forward. The only way we're going to be able, the U.S. government, to buy more Bitcoin, unless it's some other neutral way, has to be an act of Congress. But now it is moving forward. Loomis's bill could start gaining some steam. We can get actual... If they make it official with Congress, the next president can't just remove it with a swipe of a pen of an executive order. So Trump's executive order makes it important for the next 4 years, the remaining 4 years, but we need Congress to pass a law and push it through so it stays on the books and really helps us. And I'm telling you, these things are going to make a big deal. A lot of big stuff's going to happen from this once we get moving forward.
Once we get more clarity, once we get more money coming in, sovereign money, states are trying to add it, game theory, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things to be very positive and bullish. If you are a long-term holder, just stack and hodl. If you're trading, I have a video just released on some trading stuff and what I'm doing with Bitcoin. Use it at your own discretion. Of course, it's never advice. I hope this gave you some value. Thanks for watching. And as always, here is to your success.